Welcome all of you to this question paper analysis of UGC NET English, December 2021, Shift 1. And this is presented by Professor Academy, Chennai. What we are going to do, we are going to discuss, selected questions from this question paper in detail. So that is the purpose. We will try to analyze all the options given there, and we will also look at the logic behind all the questions, right? And in today's class, let's look at question number 1 to 5. And let's go for question number 1. Who among the following belong to the Chicago School of Critics? And we are given 4 critics here. We have capital A, R.S. Crane. B, capital B, we have another critic, E.M.W. Tillyard. Then capital C, we have Elder Olson. D, Alan Tate. Now we have options. So option A, capital A and capital C only. In the sense, we have R.S. Crane and Elder Olson. Similar way, we have option B, A and D only. R.S. Crane and Alan Tate only. C, B and C only. E.M.W. Tillyard and Elder Olson only. D, B and D only. So we have Tillyard and Alan Tate. So you can pick one. So question, who among the following belong to the Chicago School of Critics? Okay, you pick your answer. We will check out the answer now. A and C only. The answer is R.S. Crane and Elder Olson. They are the members of Chicago School of Critics. So how to analyze this question and the logic behind the options? So number 1, we have to look at the Chicago School of Critics. Who are they? So when we say Chicago School of Critics, these are the members of that group. We have R.S. Crane, Richard McCain, M.C.Keon, then Elder Olson, W.R. Keast, then Norman McLean, then Bernard Weinberg. And this group is also called Neo-Aristotelians. Why? Because the members of this group follow the principles set by Aristotle in his Poetics. So Aristotle in his Poetics actually gave much importance to plot, which he called the soul of tragedy. And these critics also gave more importance to plot when they analyzed works. So that's why these critics are also called Neo-Aristotelians. So when you appear for a competitive exam, and when you analyze the previous year question, what you have to do, you should not stop with finding the answer and stopping there. What you have to do, find the logic behind that and read in depth, so that in the next or the upcoming UGC NET English exam, at least in some question you can you'll be able to eliminate options and you can narrow down the answer. And the most famous book or the essay collection produced by this school, Chicago School of Critics, is Critics and Criticism, subtitle Ancient and Modern. This collection was edited and introduced by R.S. Crane, who is considered the head of this group. And the members, they also contributed their own essays to this collection. So in the next exam, they might ask, question setters might ask, who wrote this essay? So you have to start if you're starting your preparation, what you have to do? So you can check out this contents page of this book. So perhaps you can download this book or get this book and look at the contents page and look at the essay written by R.S. Crane or the other essays contributed by the other members. So that can be a starting point for your preparation. And another important member in this group is Wayne C. Booth and his most famous work, The Rhetoric of Fiction. So hereafter, do not forget, when you think of Chicago School of Critics, think of all these members, and they are also called Neo-Aristotelians, and this essay collection, and Wayne C. Booth, The Rhetoric of Fiction. Then what? Then let's also analyze the options. in question number 1, we have the mention of this critic, EMW Tillyard. So who is this EMW Tillyard? Is a celebrated critic known for his Shakespearean criticism and his opinions on Elizabethan age in general. And his most acclaimed work is the Elizabethan World Picture. And this might be a question next time. And his another book, we have Shakespeare's Problem Plays. Now your job, so if you're starting your preparation, you have to find out what are the problem plays, or first you have to find what are problem plays, or what are the problem plays of Shakespeare, and who coined the term problem plays. The term problem plays was coined by Bose, B-O-A-S, F.S. Bose, the critic F.S. Bose. Problem plays, it's a kind of a, you can't categorize certain works by Shakespeare under a certain category. Not tough to categorize certain works. So he called All Is Well That Ends Well, or Troilus and Cressida, Measure for Measure. First, initially he called these 3 works problem plays of Shakespeare. Then he also added Hamlet to this problem plays. So when we say Shakespeare's problem plays, we have 4 works: All Is Well That Ends Well, Measure for Measure, Troilus and Cressida, then finally Hamlet. Okay. Then next option, question number 1, D, Alan Tate. Who was Alan Tate? Alan Tate was a member of the school of criticism called New Criticism. When we say New Criticism, now what is the purpose or what is their aim? They study a text, a literary text, right? And if you analyze a piece of text, a literary text, you should not bother about author's opinion, right? Or reader's response, or the historical age in which the text was written. So we need not bother about the historical context or author's biography or reader's response. What concerns, or we are more bothered about what is written on the page. For instance, you will be given a sheet of paper with a poem, only the text of the poem, without the title, without the author's name. What we have to do, we have to analyze the text. And we have to rely only on the words on the page, because we don't know the name of the author, we don't know, in which age it was written. So in this context, we have to rely entirely on the text and we go for analysis. And this method is called practical criticism. And this method was introduced by I.A. Richards, one of the famous members of this school of criticism called New Criticism. And members of this school includes John Crow Ransom, I.A. Richards, Cleanth Brooks, William Empson, W.K. Wimsatt, and M.C. Beardsley. So next time they might ask which of the following are the members of New Criticism, or they might ask are not the members of New Criticism. So if you are aware of this, the school, then you can easily crack that question. And when we think of Alan Tate is known for this essay, often prescribed. If you come across New Criticism, this essay is often prescribed, Tension in Poetry. What do you mean by tension here? And this word is derived from 2 words, extension, which means literal or denotative meaning, intention, which means figurative or connotative meaning. So what Alan Tate did, he just removed the prefix x and in. So we get tension. So he said, in a good piece of poetry, there is a tension between denotative meaning and connotative meaning. There is always a struggle. Because of this struggle, we find that poem interesting. So this is tension in poetry, right? Next time, what you can expect, they may ask who wrote Tension in Poetry, or the essays written by these critics. So if you're starting your preparation, maybe this is a starting point where you just find out the famous essays written by these critics. Now let's check out question number 2. Who among the following considered paraphrase a heresy? Option A, Cleanth Brooks, B. Edmund Wilson, C. I.A. Richards, D. Percy Lubbock. I hope you are able to identify, recognize two critics here, Cleanth Brooks and I.A. Richards, who are the members of New Criticism. We have two different names here, and you can guess. There are some, there's some interconnection between question 1 and question 2. So, okay, let's go to the answer. Option A, Cleanth Brooks. So you can ask, how do I know this? Simple. As I told you before, whenever you come across, whenever you read about a school of criticism and their members, you should also read about their famous essays. For this question might be a simple one if you are aware of just the title of the essay written by Cleanth Brooks. For example, Cleanth Brooks is known for this essay collection, The Well-Wrought Urn. Subtitle, Studies in the Structure of Poetry. In this essay, in this collection, these two essays are often discussed or often prescribed. Number one, the language of paradox. So in this essay, Cleanth Brooks, the new critic, makes a statement. He says, the language of poetry is the language of paradox. So take any poem, there are always contradictions. If you make a statement, there is a counter statement to that in any poem, right? So that's his statement. The language of poetry is the language of paradox. So this might be a question next time. So who said the language of poetry is the language of paradox? So if you are aware of this, then that might be an easy question for you. Similar way, this time we got this question from this essay, The Heresy of Paraphrase. If you're just aware of this title, then that question is a simple one. And what is the crux of this essay? Simple. An artistic piece, an artistic work cannot be paraphrased. You can't paraphrase everything that is portrayed or depicted in a piece of work. And if you try to paraphrase that, and that is an act of heresy, as if you're speaking against God, right? So we should not go for paraphrasing. It is tough to paraphrase a poem or novel or anything for that matter, all right? Then let's check out the other options in question number 2. So we also looked at I.A. Richards, another prominent member of New Criticism, the school we just saw. When we think of I.A. Richards, we think of his method of teaching, practical criticism, which we just looked at, how he asked students to comment on the words on the given page, a poem without the title and without the author's name or poet's name. And this kind of activity led to something called close reading. Close reading is a technique used by or put forward by I.A. Richards and other new critics. What does it mean? Close reading. So if you are given a piece of work, you have to closely read for its features, literary features. It might be a figure of speech, or it can be a conceit, a kind of a metaphysical conceit, or kind of an image, something else. So whatever it is there, right? Or it can also about meter. So if you go for that, if you closely read words and the relationship between them and the images and everything, that is close reading. And this method was introduced by I.A. Richards, and he documented the responses by students, and he published it as he published all the responses as a book. And that is the book we have, Practical Criticism, subtitle, A Study of Literary Judgment. And in this book, we also have this often discussed essay, The 4 Kinds of Meaning. Sometimes they simply ask, what are the 4 kinds of meaning? So you have to go and check out that essay, 4 kinds of meaning. By the way, 4 kinds of meaning are sense, feeling, tone, intention. Sometimes they might ask, which of the following are the 4 kinds of meaning discussed by I.A. Richards in his essay? And another famous work by I.A. Richards, Principles of Literary Criticism. So in this collection, we have another famous work by I.A. Richards, essay, The Two Uses of Language. What are the two uses of language? That might be a possible, that might be a possible question. What are the two uses discussed by I.A. Richards in his essay, The Two Uses of Language? Number one, emotive. Number two, scientific. So I.A. Richards says, there are two uses of language. One, scientific, in the sense objective, and a kind of a denotative one. You make a statement which is either true or false, right? It goes with science. But when it comes to poetry, our job, poet's job, is not to make a true or false statement. We try to express emotions and feelings. For that, we choose a language which is emotive. Emotive, we try to convey feelings and emotions. So on the one hand, we have scientific, and the another hand, we have emotive. So these are the two uses of language. So hereafter, when you think of I.A. Richards, you should be able to recall a new criticism, practical criticism, close reading, and the members of that school. We have Cleanth Brooks, Alan Tate, and others. And also I.A. Richards, these two books, Principles of Literary Criticism and Practical Criticism, and the essays in these books. In Principles of Criticism, we have two uses of language. In Practical Criticism, we have four kinds of meaning. Then with this, we also go to the other options under question number 2. Option B, we got this name, Edmund Wilson. Who was Edmund Wilson? Right? Edmund Wilson was a Marxist critic known for his work To the Finland Station. On the other hand, you have option D, Percy Lubbock, L-U-B-B-O-C-K. Percy Lubbock is a critic known for his take or analysis on the novel, the genre called the novel. And if you want to do a research or study on the novel, then this is a good book to read. The Craft of Fiction. The Craft of Fiction. Fiction refers to here the novel. Even this might be a question next time. If you find this question, maybe if it is one of the options, at least you can eliminate the options. If you're aware, oh, I know The Craft of Fiction was written by Percy Lubbock. Let me eliminate these options. You can go for another option. So every time, if you're appearing for NET exam, and if you're going to analyze the previous, the past question papers, what you have to do, take everything in and make notes, so that next time you will be able to at least recognize these critiques and writers. Maybe the question is different, but you can eliminate options. That's one way, one of the ways you can go forward with your preparation for NET exam. Let's check out question number 3. Which two of the following concepts are deployed in the work of Frederick Jameson? So we have 4 terms. We have capital A, pastiche, capital B, hyperreal, capital C, schizophrenia, capital D, habitus. Now let's go to the options. Option A, capital A and B only. So in the sense, pastiche and hyperreal only. Option B, A and C only. So in the sense, we have pastiche and schizophrenia. Then option C, B and D only, hyperreal and habitus. Final option D, C and D only, schizophrenia and habitus. So it's a bit tough question. First, we should be aware of Frederick Jameson, the critic, a Marxist critic, and we should be aware of the essay or the work he wrote, and in what essay he discussed some of the concepts. That's one way. Or if sometimes, if you don't know the answer, try to eliminate. So if you have some familiarity with the literary theory and criticism, maybe you can eliminate hyperreal, because that concept was discussed by another critic, which we will discuss. Similar way, habitus. So if you know that, so you can easily narrow down the answer. So let's go to the answer. Answer is actually B, A and C only, pastiche and schizophrenia. But if you just stop yourself with just knowing the answer, then that's a waste of time. And most of teachers or others, when they discuss question paper, they just tell you the answer and leave, and that is a lazy piece of work. What you have to do, you have to understand the concepts and you have to fix it in a context, so that next time you'll not make this mistake, and next time you can identify these concept, and at least it will be of help to eliminate options, right? So let's understand these concepts. So two concepts, pastiche and schizophrenia. Number one, even there is some mistake in the question, they are not actually concepts. We have this critic, Frederick Jameson. Frederick Jameson, he talks about postmodernism, and he was a Marxist critic. He was very critical of this movement or writing called postmodernism. And his famous work, Postmodernism or the Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism. He sees postmodernism, is a form of elitism, which feeds elites, rich people, and their idea of art. So he vehemently criticized postmodernism. That's why we have this book, Postmodernism or the Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism. And the question is from this essay. The question we got is from this essay, Postmodernism and Consumer Society. And this essay, you can find this essay in his collection, The Cultural Turn, Selected Writings on the Postmodern, 1983-1988. The book was published in 1998. And if you read this essay, Frederick Jameson says, postmodernism has two prominent features. Number one, pastiche. Number two, schizophrenia. So they're not just concepts discussed by Frederick Jameson. Frederick Jameson says pastiche and schizophrenia are two prominent features of postmodernism. And what is this feature? Number one, pastiche. What is a pastiche, or what is pastiche? When we say pastiche, it's a kind of, we have this word, paste. You collect a lot of things here and there, and you paste it together. So you combine it together. In the sense, pastiche refers to imitation of the previous authors or already existing or pre-existing styles of writing. So when you say, I'm going to employ pastiche in your writing, so you will be imitating the style of Dickens or Orwell, but purpose is different. Why you imitate? You generally imitate sometimes to parody, to mock, it's a kind of mocking them, mocking their style, or there's a kind of a sense of humor. But when it comes to postmodernism, nothing happens. It is just merely putting everything together. It's a kind of a show. And because of this pastiche, we have different styles borrowed from here and there, but readers are given just empty images. There's nothing, there's no deeper meaning there. It's just empty and shallow. And pastiche here means depthlessness. There is no depth in subject. And this is a criticism against postmodernism. Frederick Jameson says postmodernism is shallow. It has no depth at all. And one of its prominent features is pastiche, a mere reproduction of styles, pre-existing styles. It's a waste of time. But because of this pastiche, because of these empty images, what happens to the readers or consumers? Because readers are also consumers. So because of this pastiche, we take in readers or consumers. What happened to us? We experience schizophrenia. What is schizophrenia? Schizophrenia is a mental disorder. So if you have schizophrenia, we can't find whether it is a reality or we live in our own illusion or the world we have created for ourselves, or it's a kind of a delusion. So if you have this disorder, there is no distinction between reality and delusion. And Frederick Jameson says, postmodernism, when we read postmodernism, when we experience postmodernism, this is what happens to consumers. We have schizophrenia, we experience schizophrenia. So only delusions. So now what is the ultimate criticism by Frederick Jameson against postmodernism? Frederick Jameson says there is no depth. It is just a mere reproduction. And because of this, these postmodernist writers, they do not take a political stand. If there is a social issue, they try to avoid it, only superficial, surface level. They do not go deep. So as a Marxist, Frederick Jameson sees this as an escapism. See, if there is a problem as a writer, you have to address that issue. But in the name of postmodernism, you come up with this kind of a technique, pastiche and other things like metafiction or magic realism. You try to avoid that issue. And because of this, reality is not given to or portrayed or depicted properly to the readers. So they can only experience schizophrenia. So now I hope you can understand the concept, pastiche and schizophrenia. And next time you should never make this mistake. Okay, Frederick Jameson, I know Frederick Jameson was a staunch critic against postmodernism. Maybe that's one idea you should have. Then you should discuss, you should remember this essay, Postmodernism and Consumer Society, which comes in this collection, The Cultural Turn, and his celebrated work, Postmodernism or the Cultural Logic of Capitalism. Now let's go to the other options. We have hyperreal under question number 3. What is hyperreal and who introduced this concept? This concept was introduced by the French critic Jean Baudrillard. All right, it's in a French name. The pronunciation is different. We have the first name Jean. It is pronounced Jean. Then you have Baudrillard. 2L, they are silent. Baudrillard. It's a French name. The 2L, both are silent here. Baudrillard. So Jean Baudrillard was a critic, and he was known for these two concepts primarily: simulacra and simulation. And what is simulacra and simulation? So you might have heard of the simulation. Simulation is not reality. It's a kind of make-believe. So what we see in this world is we do not experience reality, only the removed reality. So how do we understand reality? Only through simulacra. Simulacra refers to the empty images we see on the television or on the internet or social media. So it's just a series of images with no signifiers, no meaning at all. It's like a pastiche. There's no meaning, there's no depth at all. But that is what shown to us. That is simulacra. The images, empty images given to us. Simulation, we think that is reality, but that's not reality. It's only a simulation, only a kind of an illusion. So what we experience is only hyperreal. When we watch TV or when we follow this news on the internet, what we experience is only the hyperreal, kind of an illusionary one, delusion. It's not the real we experience. So this concept was put forward by Jean Baudrillard, especially in this book, Simulacra and Simulation. Next, let's discuss another concept, habitus, under question number 3. And this concept was put forward by another French critic and sociologist, Pierre Bourdieu, P-I-E-R-R-E, Bourdieu, B-O-U-R-D-I-E-U, Pierre Bourdieu. And look at the essay, the name of the essay. The moment you know the essay, I think it might be a simple question, right? The habitus and the space of lifestyles. And this essay comes in his collection, in his book, Distinction, semicolon, colon, a social critique of the judgment of taste. What is this book about? It's about our taste, social taste. So how do you find a car interesting, or wearing clothes interesting, or buying things? Because we are trained in such a way, we should appreciate certain things. Simple, your taste, artistic taste. Let's see. So who told us that Mona Lisa is interesting? The painting, Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa is interesting. We are told. And we are told if you don't find it interesting, then you do not have that sense, that that taste for art, or that artistic taste. So we are molded in such a way that we are trained to appreciate art. So so that is one of the purposes of education. Why are you educated? You are educated to appreciate art or value. so that you'll buy. For instance, still now, famous paintings, they sell for crores or millions of dollars. Why? Because of this. And how does this happen? It's called habitus. In the sense, habitus simply means it's kind of a habit, right? You can remember the word habit. Habitus. In the sense, what we do, we internalize the social structures. Okay, if I don't find this painting interesting, then people are going to find fault with my taste. Okay, I also find this interesting. We internalize the social structures. Then we start following how we should also go with the society or the societal rules and norms. So that is called habitus. Habitus refers to the social structures and norms we internalize. So that is habitus. And this concept is almost similar to another concept by another Marxist critic, Louis Althusser. We will discuss Althusser in the next question. Althusser, 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 Louis Althusser. He also came up with similar concept called interpellation. 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 Which that concept is similar to habitus. Interpellation refers to how we internalize social norms. Then we follow that norms faithfully. We do not contradict any norms. That's how we live, right? We internalize. We take hereafter, then we take thing for granted. We do not question things, and something goes wrong. Okay. So with this, let's go to the next question. With which of these is Gugi wa Thiago generally associated? Right? Gugi wa Thiago, pronunciation N is silent, N G-U-G-I, N is silent. Gugi wa Thiago, Kenyan writer and novelist. Let's look at the options. Option A, decolonizing the body. B, decolonizing the mind. C, decolonizing the polity. D, decolonizing the state. But if we have some familiarity with the post-colonial criticism, then this might be an easy question, because Thiago is known for an essay, right? And if you know the title, and that's the answer. Answer B, decolonizing the mind. That's his famous essay collection. So hereafter, when you read about post-colonial criticism, make sure that you read about Gugi wa Thiago. And this is his famous book, Decolonizing the Mind, subtitle, the Politics of Language in African Literature. And in one of the essays in this book, Thiago says, we have to abolish the English department. I know it's ironic, but he said, because of this English department, what happens? We forget our mother tongue. And we are decolonized, we are colonized. Our mind is colonized. So if we want to decolonize our mind, our thought process, we have to think in our mother tongue. But we are not able to think in our mother tongue because it is colonized by ideas and others' ideas injected into our mind through that language, colonizers' language called English or French or any other language. So Gugi wa Thiago says, first, come out of that, go back to your mother tongue. So even he went back to his mother tongue. Maybe I leave a question with you. Why don't you check out the mother tongue of Gugi wa Thiago? Because he wrote in English, but he also went back to write in his own mother tongue. Please check out the mother tongue of Gugi wa Thiago. So when you analyze a previous year question paper, this is how you have to go. So you have to go deep. Maybe one more point about that writer, so that next time you'll not make a mistake. And I told you he was a Kenyan writer, especially a novelist, and his famous novel. So when you know that he was a novelist, you should at least check the name of the novel, at least one of the novels. His famous novel, A Grain of Wheat. All right. So with this, let's go to the final question of today's class. From whom does Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak borrow the term subaltern? Option A, Friedrich Engels. B, Karl Marx. C, Louis Althusser. D, Antonio Gramsci. So what is the commonality among the options? All are Marxists. We have Karl Marx and his friend Friedrich Engels. We have just now discussed Louis Althusser, who is known for his idea of interpellation, internalization of social ideas and norms. Right? Then we become subjects. We are no longer individuals. Right? We become subject to authority. Then we have the Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci. Let's go to the answer and discuss. Answer D, Antonio Gramsci. So Antonio Gramsci was an Italian Marxist. He was imprisoned, tortured. So while he was in prison, he wrote his ideas, and that was later published as a book, Selections from the Prison Notebooks by Antonio Gramsci. So in this work, he talks about the subaltern. When Antonio Gramsci used the term subaltern, it had a different meaning. Subaltern meant for Antonio Gramsci, the working class, the proletariat, the working class, right? But the term was extended. The meaning of the term was extended to mean something else by post-colonial critic and feminist Gayatri Spivak. So when it comes to post-colonialism, subaltern refers to the marginalized groups. So subaltern, the term used by Gramsci meant something else, right? But it's a kind of an extended meaning, that's all. So we know Gayatri Spivak, her famous essay, Can the Subaltern Speak? Can they speak against authority? So that's the question she asked. It's a famous question. Okay, so with this, let's wind up today's class. So what we have done with this 5 questions, we not only analyzed, just the answers. We also analyzed the logic and where the question is taken from. What you have to do once you just go through this, you have to check out the author and the background or other works by the author, other concepts by the author. So that's how you can build. So you can have, go for a notebook where you can every day you can write, take down points. So see you tomorrow with another 5 questions with in-depth analysis, and this will be of use to you. Thank you so much. If you want to join Professor Academy for NET, UGC NET and SET English, you can contact this number on the screen. You see 75501000920. Thank you so much. Start your preparation and go ahead with confidence. Thank you so much.